Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Wolfenstein the Old Blood. So, effectively we were in the middle of a level and then we found another one of these nightmare levels. And this one feels like it's setting ourselves up for potentially a big boss battle. Each time you do this, you are starting off with a default amount of weapons and such. Yeah, that I believe maybe Mecha Hitler there. And of course, being able to strafe. No, I don't think that is quite Mecha Hitler, so that either we're not going to get to that point, but you can see here that that was a strong person for sure. And there we have a 3D key. That was a boss battle of some sort, and maybe that is as much as this game is willing to do. It may be that they just don't want to include the Mecha Hitler level in this game. It definitely doesn't feel like if I had found every single thing that was available, every single level that was available in this nightmare sections, that I would be playing every single level that was available in Wolfenstein 3D, the fully paid version, all the episodes, effectively. It does definitely feel like they are skipping around. So I guess in the dream, if you needed to get over 350 in health, that would have been a place to do it. Although, I don't know if we're really at that point where we need any of that. See, now I've got this very slow weapon I'm controlling. If you look at the hand, you can see how the wrist is somewhat unnaturally twisted. Kind of a bad animation there. So yeah, either this is all set up for fighting a bigger boss or a bigger group of people in the next room, or you were supposed to have run in this room very quickly and found the secret. In the original Wolfenstein 3D, I imagine you did take whatever weapons you found in previous levels with you, but I also know that there probably was a way to either enter a cheat code or in some other way skip levels or select levels, so it creates this odd balancing situation where you kind of need an ability to get more power, more abilities. You still really don't seem to have any reason why we're trying to find all the old silver. It does kind of feel like if you were trying to find all the old silver in the game, you would have to do it for each level and maybe then get an achievement there. There's not a lot of options as far as beating that bad guy otherwise. Well, this is different. And when we saw the picture of this nightmare, it was torn. And that's odd. That seems to be the way that goes, is that they just didn't want to go any further with that. And so, to me, that really feels like you can't do the nightmare section any further. So if you were to buy this game because you thought you could you could play all of Wolfenstein 3D. You're wrong at that point. If you were to buy this game thinking that they were going to recontextualize Wolfenstein 3D in some way, you're pretty much wrong on that aspect also. This again has a weird part on the map that just seems pretty inaccessible. And this is a previous map that I am in. So we exited out. It definitely feels like there is some kind of secret room that you should be able to access, but I just don't know how you would reach it. Yeah. We were about to do this whole big boss fight with a group of zombies, and we left the room, so I'm not sure if the zombies are going to respawn or what. If there's really an opportunity for any of that. Yeah. It half seems like you should be able to crawl through there. But you can see the map is only taking me further away as I try to find a potential secret passage. Really, it just feels like what happened here is they left some content. Oops. But you can see that's gold. So we're gonna probably come back to this level. Like, it definitely feels like we're coming back to this level. And at a certain level, I almost wonder if we're gonna come back and just rerun the whole game a second time. Which I hope not. I hope the game isn't to make a mad dash all the way back to the beginning of level 1. Anyway, so we had come in here. There was a bunch of Nazis just taking kind of defensive positions. And then we had gone up this way and then crawled through that hole to get to that. They were taking up defensive positions, and then there was a bunch of zombies in this area, and then there's this better scene here, hanging body, like somebody was doing some experiments, and it definitely feels like they were setting themselves up for a boss fight. Now that we've returned to this area, we're not even hearing a single sound of any of that. And they want me to crawl up here and lock myself in. So before I do that, let's... We're seeing some of these roaches. Remember, we saw a bunch of roaches and rats to begin with. I wonder if ORXX means something, or if they are just trying to not be too offensive or too accurate to real religious Celtic crosses. You have like a moth here. Just figure out, make sure there was nothing to that. So I very possibly am going to just be fighting a horde of zombies. And Nazis. You'd think they'd have something better to do than fight me while being chased by zombies. But apparently not. I want to check something here. We never did get as far as the perks. Yeah, Hans Gross was that character that we unlocked by doing that. Yeah, we're not going to get anywhere close to getting the Silent Kill Commandos. if I killed one more thing with bomber snouse, that we could get that. We never got our armor up to 200. We're not going to probably have enough kills left in the entire game to use that. Stealth takedowns is probably not going to happen. Kills from cover. I've forgotten how that even works. And then, yeah. Definitely feels like you would have to play the game multiple times to unlock all of the possible items. Let's see, bomber snouse. It just does not. There we go. But getting extra clip size doesn't probably change too much. Like, remember, I'm playing on easy here and I'm running out of bullets. I can only imagine it would get harder as the game at higher difficulties. I can only imagine it would be more difficult to maintain a decent amount of bullets in your collection. Let's see. There's nothing but armor down here. And then you have to climb back up, so there's an extra danger in that. Let's see. And this really is getting down to being closer to a reloading game than a shooting game. Or at times it tries to be a stealth game. Yeah, you do have this level of chaos that they're trying to invoke and make you feel, but I'm not sure I really agree with it. Or I'm really feeling it. Yeah. So this is that area. So the two maps just connect together. Which then makes me wonder. Oops, I'm about to blow myself up. Is there a way to open this? It doesn't seem like there is. So how you're supposed to reach that area is questionable. Like, logically, if you're supposed to be able to reach that area, it would either be through some opening that we missed over here, which that can't be right, or some future opening we have yet to see. Meanwhile, the music is getting louder and more aggressive, so you would expect that to be an indicator that we are working our way up to a giant horde or a giant boss fight. With kind of that pathetic ending that we saw. You can't fall through here. Can't jump through there either. That we saw for the flashback, the nightmare sequence. That makes me feel like we may very well just see a fairly pathetic ending to the main game too. I'm really not expecting too much. I was actually expecting a lot more. This is interesting, but I think this is a glitch because of the hand grenade. I don't believe they intentionally wanted to have somebody stuck implausibly in the fence. There's a way you could have animated this to make this look very obvious, but having it just his legs out like that and not flop down and his hips through the fence wall screams mistake or glitch. There was a whole run and jump thing. I forget how to do that. Like, we haven't done that in like 5 hours out of a 10-hour game, so if I had to run and jump over a gap, I would be fairly irritated by that requirement. Nothing special for shooting hanging upside down skeletons. It seems to me like what's going to happen is we are going to end up just going around in circles on the stairs, and down we go to the source of all these zombies. And I guess this is probably connecting back to that same area. So it does seem oddly designed in such a way that this level is 3 different areas and 3 different levels. So I guess the idea here would have been to fall, but the falling still didn't quite make it. And you can't use the that's odd, you can stand on the barrels at all. You can't use the knife in the water. It's clearly something that wasn't programmed. I can't get back in that area, I don't think, unless it's going to let me climb on this wall. We can look to see if possibly there's something under the water, but I think there's probably not too much under the water at any point in the game. So we'll just never get that gold, which is fine. There's plenty of places we haven't gotten gold before. It's impossible to, without the damn map, how did we lose it? The project is a complete failure, Haga. Maybe that damn American took it. When we return to the surface, I'll write a scanning report to General Strauss. I can guarantee that. You slaving goat fucker, I will quit your... hell yeah, the name copying is unacceptable. Hoffman, lead the way. Now we're getting smoke in our face, and I wonder if this is going to be a hallucination. Now in the main game series, I don't think even after the second game you actually got to fight Helga. Helga was really being, or the Helga that was being depicted in the future alternate universe. She's being really set up as the Hitler, the female equivalent of Hitler. That way they don't actually have to have Hitler show up as often, because that is kind of the crying shame of the creators of this game, is that in modern times having a game where you're talking about Hitler, or even in a negative light, is kind of distasteful and unwanted by the creators. So it would be a little weird in this game if we actually did get to fight Helga. And we'll just set ourselves up for a boss fight. This is where all the zombies were before, and we just threw a grenade and blew them all up. Which makes a very different experience. And we kind of consistently run into that as an issue, is that it seems like if you plan ahead, if you play the game really smartly, you basically have no gameplay at a certain level. And if you play poorly, then you're going to get overwhelmed and killed. And unlike the old Wolfenstein 3D, it's not likely that you could or would load this level separately and have to like revigorate your weapons collections or recollect the same weapons over and over again. Well, that was somewhat legitimate gameplay mechanics in the old days. It's not really anymore. It definitely does seem like there's a level of like bloodletting or oil or flame or something that's supposed to go through this channel, and then I would have to assume it's supposed to actually go down this way and down here. And so I'm expecting this to start a fire.
Ready for what's down here, Helga.
And that burnt the flaming body. Fire hurts. Good to know. And while it would be funny for there to be nothing there, it would also be boring. The stairs are slowly revealing themselves. Meanwhile, we're getting zombies, but only Nazi zombies. What's odd here is that we're not seeing any like original zombies. Nothing that looks like somebody that would be in torn robes or anything like that. And so even cleaning out this area before has not stopped this gameplay from happening. And I don't know if anything is going to stop them from coming. So I probably should just hunker down here at this point and set myself up for somewhat safety. There we go. We'll take one of those, blow that up. We'll look all around here and see if we can catch more weapons. And just go forward. Because I don't think that was going to end. Since she's talking, I'm not going to read this out loud.
You're that fucking American, aren't you? Who killed my hunter Rudy? I must say those. What have we here?
This is a point where going to like a third person perspective would be better.
Ja, das hätte uns etwas Zeit erspart.
Ich verstehe diese Symbole nicht.
I don't remember when I got the map, but apparently
I could just... I feel like I'm a child again, digging for the treasures in the woods. This moment.
yeah, going third person perspective now would be way better.
You'll always be
be just another Nazi.
Sehen Sie, Schreiner.
Ja, aber das ändert nichts. Bisher konnten Sie weder mich noch General Strasse beeindrucken, Helga.
Meine Güte, Schreiner, Sie sind
I'm
ein
still
solcher korrekter
not certain if
Verkehr.
this is the same Helga
Der
from
Code auf König Ottos Karte entspricht
from
genau
the
dem
New
Symbol
Order.
auf diesem
I don't
Podest.
think it is. I think it's a completely different Helga,
Kommunikationsidiot.
which they could have. They definitely should have thought of a different name if that was the case.
Wichtig ist, Helga.
Ja, nun machen Sie sie nicht gleich ins Hände.
So there was one last doorway or gate. Now we have some kind of like giant zombie or golem.
Hallo. Du bist also König Ottos kleines Geheimnis, was? Du siehst so einsam aus.
Meanwhile, while she's distracted, I'm freeing myself.
Lecker Fleisch für dich mitgebracht, ja. American Flash. Gaggenhöre. Gaggenhöre. Na bitte.
It looks really big.
Sehen Sie. So beherrscht man ein Monster. Ha. Wollen Sie es auch mal versuchen?
Ich gestehe, Helga, ich bin beeindruckt.
Aber warum hat König Otto dein schönes Gesicht vor der Welt versteckt? Hm? Egal. Zeit zum Fressen. Einer Blicke!
Well, clearly this is either an alternate universe or that's a different Helga. At this point, but this also feels like a boss fight that's kind of coming out of nowhere. Alright, come on. I seem to be mostly stuck. So we'll blow off his jaw with the most powerful weapon. And then maybe... Like, there's a whole armor here and things here. And then there's an upper area. And then there's Nazis, but I don't even know if killing the Nazis are really that important. The real question really is just coming down to, is he really hurting me when he swipes his hand like that, or is he just pushing me out of the way? It really feels like if you're not hitting that green, you're not doing anything. Which definitely makes it feel like there's little value in even being up in this area. And then we're gonna die here in a second, and in the process of dying, we'll reset ourselves. Yeah. So we may have to look at the whole cutscene again. Good, we don't. You don't have enough shots here to argue to miss. You need that to work. every time. Wouldn't it be funny if throwing a knife was the right move? And oddly, this really is fairly close to just working with the Nazis, because they're fighting it too, whether they mean to help you or not. And oddly, you are like fairly safe to just kind of run around there. These guys won't even try and take you on until you are way up in this area. So at some point in the fight, you want to just kind of run one way through this and then grab as much as possible. And I'm not really using the Helga says I lost control. Where is Helga? Wasn't she eaten by him? Alright, let's... So you can hear her talking. I'm not even sure where I'm supposed to go. Like, I don't think she's just one of these zombies. And I could very easily be picking up bullets here for very little reason, because this feels like this is the end of the game. She's in there. Okay. And I can't go that way because I'll just take damage. So yeah, we're gonna get Helga saying she lost control and crying. And our whole goal and our whole mission up until this point has been to get this dumb folder. Pause now if you want to read. Pause now if you want to read. We haven't read any of the dialogues. I personally haven't read any of the dialogues. I haven't found real reason to collect, I guess that's 64 different things of gold. And she just dies, which I guess at some point I could have killed her.
You don't understand. You never were in control.
These pre-rendered cutscenes with the voice acting are way better. And then he gets hit in the head, which brings it back to being a dream.
It's fucking everywhere.
Or a concussion.
Here he is.
Fergus.
Come on, give me a hand, you lazy bastard.
I don't remember if Fergus was dead or not.
How's the head, Blazkowicz?
How'd you find me?
We got a distress call from Pippa. We found her body.
They got Wesley too, Fergus.
So I guess Fergus was alive. And
Come on, miss. We have to get you out of here.
it kind of feels like the zombie stuff
Listen, Blazkowicz.
stopped as soon as that guy died.
You did a
The
hell
monster
of a job
died, and that's the
finding
end
that
of the
folder.
zombies.
Which means we've got the location of Death's Head's compound.
Hmm.
We've bloody got it. Can you believe it?
Now, it's almost believable.
Something important.
Hmm.
It's gone when I wake up. No time for dreams, I guess.
Ah, damn it.
This may very well make
Why did you
this...
remind me, Blazkowicz?
I look like your babysitter, Fergus.
This might be a
Fuck it.
prequel to the New Order. Although,
Almost
yeah,
there.
it would be a prequel because it came out after the New
We should
Order.
kill that big fucking monster proper, BJ. The biggest one is still out there.
This
This may be
cutscene's
our
not
last chance to
animated
topple
very
the Nazi
nicely
empire.
for his
Now it's time to get it done, eh?
for the age of this
The
game.
world is counting on us and all that. No
He's not looking
pressure.
you in the face,
Except for
which
my
is
goddamn
weird.
bladder.
See, the problem though,
Monster never dies, no matter how many times
is-
you kill it.
even if you wanted to
sheds its
bring
skin,
back the
changes form.
zombies,
Feel the weight of the world pushing me down.
you kind of have a weird.
I try to carry
It would be
nothing
hard
else.
to bring back the zombie
One
idea
last time.
because
Not to rest.
there'd have to just be another King Otto monster golem creating them. So, yeah, they've definitely left us in a position where you could consider this maybe a prequel to the New Order, but then now having played the game, it's not worth playing. So I would definitely not suggest the Old Blood for anybody, because it's not offering anything particularly good. Even if you really, really loved the New Order, you'd be better off just playing more of the New Order or playing it a second time. And it's funny because there's a lot of parallels as far as the gameplay mechanics in the Old Blood and the New Order, but I now definitely feel like I would be much happier had I just played the New Order a second time. The story doesn't go anywhere. It's nowhere as good as the New Order, as far as I vaguely remember the New Order. If anything, this game maybe pulls off a miracle in making me love the New Order a lot more than I may have originally, just by comparison, being such a short game, such a bad game, poorly balanced game. We really have to cover the difficulty and poor balancing aspects. Like, I just don't think I'm that bad of a game player that I should have had to play this game on the easiest settings of 6 settings. Then you have the little challenges that seem to mean nothing, and then you have the old silver, which means seemingly nothing, and then the gold collectibles, which mean nothing. It's all just around achievements. As far as achievements go, we've gotten somewhere around 25, and there are 19 more to get, and the vast majority of players didn't even get the achievement for beating the game. So yeah, I don't really feel like there's much of an experience there worth having. Like, I was definitely in danger. This audio is really loud, sorry. There's a decent number of people in the credits, but not that many, since we're already to the special thanks. It is interesting to think about where this kind of project would land now that Bethesda is owned by Microsoft. More than likely, this was a filler project that was demanded by higher ups after the New Order sold unexpectedly well, and this was not a passion project. So I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft would have not greenlit this game in favor of just making Wolfenstein 2 in the reboot series, the next sequential chronological game, which I'm fairly certain there were some delays in the release of that game and of the next chronological game in the Wolfenstein New Order series. And had this game not been made, and instead their efforts were put, the people who made this game worked on the Wolfenstein 2. I forget the name of it. That's why I'm just calling it Wolfenstein 2 when that's not really its name. But you're also seeing a lot of people in a lot of different offices doing manager and PR stuff getting listed here. And whenever you see that, that tends to imply that it's not a well-coordinated, well-made game. Or at least it's not a well-coordinated, well-run business. And that certainly would make sense if all 10 or all 8 of the levels in this game were made by different people. And it was just all patchwork together at the last moment. I definitely leaned more into not looking to play the most scary games, since this is supposed to air during my Halloween months on my YouTube channel where I cover the scariest of the scariest games. This year I'm not really doing that. The zombies in this game were not particularly scary. The graphics weren't particularly good looking. The scenarios aren't that scary. The getting hit in the head before you start to actually see zombies and getting hit. It says it's an alternate universe of 1946. Like, even using Bink Video is kind of an old thing. I don't know how many people still use that, even when this game came out. It used to be used a lot and was top technology, most advanced technology. But yeah, I couldn't. What am I trying to do here? Let's see, we can see the collectibles. And there's 8 chapters and nothing more unlocked. And we didn't get most of those. As far as concept art goes, you've got a lot of concept art that's not that interesting, that are showing you sequences. The whole Wolfenstein aspect pretty much forgotten in that back half of the game. The stealth concept not particularly done well either. Yeah, I'm just trying to look through all this and see if there's any point in this game that I was really having a lot of fun. I nearly just got bored of this game and stopped playing. So we missed one secret concept art. That was, but yeah, and the fact that I'm getting bored with a game, and this is when it really starts to go off the rails, is in you're in trench ruins and graveyards and cult type areas. So Wesley, the bad guy, BJ Blazkowicz, which we don't see him very often, and he's shirtless a lot of times too, which it was a mistake. We missed a character. You would have thought that these guys would have played a much bigger role in the game, and they're completely forgotten about after about the second chapter. The crazy people, you would think that they would have been sacrificed or something later. Not a character we didn't miss. These guys, the heavy shoulders don't play a big enough role. The dogs don't play a big enough role. Agent 1 being tortured. And then this girl was one you could have saved. Instead, we chose to save this guy. Theoretically, you could jump back into the game and try and save him, but save the girl instead and get a slightly different ending. This is a point where BJ Blazkowicz really, his head needs to be match his body a little bit better. His body needs to be toned down a little bit more. I mean, people, even when this game came out, I don't think are super into the bodybuilder or super muscular. And even at that, looking at the tone of his face and his head compared to that body, it really does feel like his head is way dirtier and way darker, where the body is perfectly clean and not a scar on it and way too muscular. You just take it down 10-20% and scale it down and it would have been better. This Helga has to be a completely different Helga from the other character. Maybe the other character isn't even named Helga in the New Order. I just don't remember that much about the New Order, and yet I come out of playing the Old Blood loving the New Order way more. I don't know if we ever even saw this character. Then you start to get into some silly things. This concept of an idea that doesn't make sense. Like, if you were going to jump into this, why not fight this at some point with this? Why not have this fall through the roof of the cave, like at the very end, and then you get a little punch out sequence? This is all 10 silver items in the Nightmare boss level. Unlock that, which probably means any of the other unlocks are also around that. I'm not going to go through all these letters, but we can see at the very beginning we missed one, and that is it. Let's see. Seems like this King Otto story probably gives you some backstory as far as the King Otto letter. Let's look at statistics now. Alright. Only one of my Steam friends has played this game, and I have beaten his score by 1,400 points or so. I died apparently 13 times, killed slightly over 1,100 people. And then there's a lot of shots fired versus probably shots missed. And then some numbers that are very low. Kills while sprint sliding, 0, because that never even occurred to me. Grenade throwback kills, 0, because I didn't know you could do that in the game. You can take a number from my world rank here to see that just beating the game, playing pretty poorly, which I'll fully admit I played pretty poorly, but just beating the game to the ending, seeing the credits, gets you in 125,869th place out of nearly 1 million positions, which means 9 out of 10 players roughly never even beat the game, which those statistics alone way higher than the 50% you would normally expect. As far as challenges, I expect that you have to, all of them would have been unlocked. But apparently not so true, because there is a challenge here that is still locked. Which, that's weird. And there's nothing else here. So unless I hit the resume here, then I would assume that everything should be unlocked. And I don't know, unless I hit resume and it doesn't just take me back to the final boss fight. Maybe to unlock a challenge you have to do a sleep section. You can definitely tell it would be difficult to try and collect all the characters and all the gold. We could probably get all the letters if I cared. Let's just see where this resume puts us. I suspect this will just put us at the final boss fight. It would be very odd if it didn't. Yeah. There. And it seems kind of odd that you would even bother, like, to have the resume here, or that you would even bother to have weapons. Like, you can't go backwards. Let's see. So it's really questionable as to what you would be trying to do here. Yeah, it totally makes sense that you'd be able to pick up items in here, but it makes no sense that there would be items to pick up over here, that such as weapons and bullets. This is the way I think you came in.
You don't understand.
I didn't get any achievement for shooting her. So the only thing we could think is ruins on the easiest chapter starts you here. This is where you got hit. And this is the point where you start to see zombies, which definitely does imply that maybe there never were really zombies and there never was a monster in the first place. Like, you just don't know. The whole rats and following a rat concept and the insanity being a thing in your dream. So that's where he got the map. So in a lot of ways, this is where the game starts.
Helga's gone. Took the folder with her.
This is totally where the game should have started, and everything up until that point should have been
Copy.
We'd already met Kessler at that point. The chapter selects are pretty awful here. Also. And you can't jump these cutscenes very easily. Alright.
For the church ruins. Helga's gotta be there. Whatever she's doing, it's bad, and you gotta stop it. Then snatch the goddamn folder. Only one more hill, Billy boy. Only one more.
This is where the branching storyline takes place. Is at the end of the previous level. So it is totally not worth your effort to go back into the not challenges, but chapters. You would have to start at Ruins, play all the way through Ruins to the very end to get a different ending. And you'd have to get fairly far, halfway through Old Town, which Old Town's not that long. If you wanted to play the last chapter, you're starting at the dig site. Each of these chapters are incredibly long. And yeah, if you're not liking the main game, you're just not going to bother to do any of that extra stuff. I'm definitely not going to bother to do any of the extra stuff. I think you could be very generous and say that Wolfenstein and zombies is too much. Like, none of the previous Wolfenstein games really has zombies. And even the New Order with the Atlantean technology allowing you to have some level of regenerative health, which you have regenerative health up to 25 in this game, and it's not explained at all. So the Atlantean technology concept was unnecessary. There was always a bit of extra technology in Wolfenstein, so I wouldn't say that's new, and there's always a bit of magic and mysticism in surrounding the Nazis looking for magic and things, but the fact that it's proven, the fact that it's just a boring old zombie concept with nothing new or different to it, doesn't really work. The Old Blood could have been a game where it was just BJ Blazkowicz against Nazis that are in an alternate universe and have slightly better technology, or highly advanced technology, and they could be looking for Nazi stuff, but then they could have never found the Nazi stuff, or they could have found that it was nothing at all. Because at the end of the day, the story is nothing at all. It's not like they found a virus or a device or object that was creating zombies. If anything was creating zombies, it was the giant golem monster, which is pretty much unexplained. So you can't use that for anything. It would have been bolder if the Nazis actually succeeded in getting and taming the golem monsters, and then they used that to march it across all of Europe and reincarnate and zombify all their fallen soldiers and all their fallen enemies to fight on their side, and then it creates a different alternate universe where the Nazis are hugely prevalent and super beneficial to the Nazi party, and then you could have had the Old Blood be the beginning of a reboot on a reboot, but even that's a hat on a hat. You really can't have a reboot of the New Order and a reboot of the Old Blood. These are competing concepts and ideas that they tried to merge together. But yeah, when you think Wolfenstein, you're expecting a first-person shooter where you shoot Nazis and not zombies. So they should have gotten rid of the zombies. You could have called it the Old Blood. It could have been experimentations into reincarnation and zombifying people that didn't really succeed. The actual gameplay aspects around people Nazis getting killed and then coming back as zombies didn't really change the gameplay mechanic enough. It's crazy that there isn't a zombie mode where from the beginning you could do all the chapters and they might come back as zombies after you kill them, or they will come back as zombies as you kill them. That would at least give you a second reason to play the game, but yeah, they don't do anything. There's just very, very little value here. And arguably Wolfenstein has very little value anyways, because it is fairly cliched to be in a first-person shooter fighting Nazis. We would, I think, be better off just fighting aliens or nondescript enemies. there's been better games that have taken those concepts into different ways. Arguably, a good Duke Nukem compared to a good Wolfenstein, I would prefer to play a good Duke Nukem if everything else was the same, just because alien pig cops is more interesting than played out tried and true Nazis. Although Wolfenstein, going back to what is almost a tradition, isn't terrible. It is also worth mentioning that as the generations get older, there's fewer and fewer people that are World War II buffs. So fewer and fewer people that want to relive the glory days of Americans kicking Nazis in the chest, as the image shows. Yes, still Nazis are bad in most people's mind in the United States, but I think it being fresh in the first generation's mind is slowly aging out and being forgotten to a certain extent. Nobody wants to relive that experience or to relive a fantasy of that experience as much. So yeah, I would like to see Wolfenstein games come out, but fairly infrequently. One every 5 years, 6-7 years even, maybe one every 10 years makes sense, just for Bethesda to say, yes, we have this game and we're going to make it because there's a lot of history behind this game and it deserves not to be forgotten completely, but it doesn't need to come out once every 4 years, every 3 years, every 2 years. That's too frequent. Unless you're going to try and make an argument to replace something like the multiplayer Call of Duty games, the ones set in World War II. If you're going to try and replace them and call those Wolfenstein games, that would be interesting, and it might fix a problem in some of the Call of Duty type games. If you could have multiplayer teams where both were American teams and the Nazis were always the bad guys, that would probably be a smart move. But you definitely would have to heavily focus on multiplayer. None of these levels really could be even local multiplayer played, if that's where they were trying to go. You would have to strip out the stealth gameplay mechanics. You'd have to have a lot more movement tech and a lot more weapons. But I could see Wolfenstein going in that direction. It's almost applaudable that the Wolfenstein reboot didn't try to have multiplayer, since so many other games did. But in fairness, Bethesda also didn't try to put a lot of focus on multiplayer in their Doom reboot, when it probably would have been slightly smart to try to go deeper down that direction. But they instead created Snap Map as a concept that didn't really succeed, but at least it wasn't just, here's the levels we've created, play them in multiplayer if you want to. I'm probably rambling a little bit, and there's really not a lot of reason to continue. That's really it for this series. So I should just move on to the next game. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos, because that helps me with YouTube, tells the algorithm that my videos are worth watching. There's a playlist tab on my YouTube page if you check it out that has a playlist for every game I've ever played. I would recommend watching Wolfenstein in the New Order. It would be very interesting, I imagine, to see what I said there, since even I don't remember what I actually said there. But I do vaguely recall, or I definitely have this vague feeling of being a lot more satisfied with it than this. Although it is also probably fair to say I am not the biggest first-person shooter fan in the first place. Most games have first-person shooting mechanics, but I don't focus on improving those skills to a high level. Anyways, I was wrapping up. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wish list. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.